Good morning. Welcome to the Automate That podcast. My name is Dennis Charles, your host, and I am joined by a very special guest today, Blake Waldrop. Blake, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's morning here in Oregon.
Yeah, yeah. And what's the weather like out in Oregon?
Rainy, as you would imagine for Oregon. Yeah.
Yeah, I was at an event last night, and a couple of friends they're actually going to be moving out there.
Oh, cool.
Is it Beaver Creek? Is that an area?
It's pretty much it's Beaverton. So yeah,
Beaverton.
you
Okay,
would
yeah,
imagine beavers being out everywhere. I've never seen a beaver though.
yeah. And they were saying, oh, it just looks so beautiful, but it rains all the time.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. I think we're going to have a great discussion talking about AI business uses, how business owners can benefit from the use of AI. And I know this is something you've got a lot of energy and passion behind, Blake. So yeah, let's get us started. Why don't you tell us a little bit of how you got into marketing in the first place?
Sure, yeah. So I was a teacher for several years and just loved working with children, but you know, I always wanted to do something with tech online. I thought I wanted to do graphic design. I didn't even know what marketing was. It was a field I didn't know anything about until my sister-in-law, she was going to actually help me start a mural business. So I wanted to potentially be an artist and do murals as a business. So she was helping me build a website. So she was showing me the funnel that she had built for me and where it started and where it ended and how it made my life easier. And I said, wow, this is extremely important for businesses. I feel like I'm seeing like the skeleton of the internet. I'm seeing the innards of how business and commerce works online and how people are sold things and how this is so creative and technical and just awesome. So I wanted to dive in actually. And I, so I took a course on Facebook ads, Facebook and Instagram meta ads. And so I learned how to implement that for local businesses. But sometime in that process of doing ads for local businesses, what I was doing was I was doing lead generation. And with lead generation, you it requires a really well-rounded sales process post lead acquisition. So you need to be following up within 5 minutes. You need to have really your follow-up down pat. And you know, you need to you need these things because conversion rates are so low and people fill out forms, just like that for anything. So anyway, I realized that I needed to, in order to reduce churn in my business and keep clients, I needed to learn automations. And so what I did is I decided on Go High Level is the software that I decided to use. It's very popular among marketers. And that's what I began using. So what I started doing with automations is I started automating the follow-up process. So this is as simple as you could start with Zapier, automating follow-up, like just sending notifications to, in my case, to my clients that they had gotten a lead, but you can also send notifications to the lead or to the customer. So follow-up is something that is a good entry point, I think, for automations.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like quite the journey to get to where you are. And
Yeah.
it sounds like we're at the right place with the Automate That podcast because it sounds like automation really is the way forwards. Because speed is the name of the game for a lot of local businesses. And I see, as a business coach, I see a lot of businesses just not following up in a timely manner with their leads, and obviously they're just going to go to their competitor who can get it done much more quickly. And yeah, I have a client that uses Go High Level, speaks very, very highly of it. Yeah. What does that actually do for a business owner?
Yeah, so Go High Level, a business owner can use it. It's an extremely, it's a very big system. So there's a lot to learn within it. I actually know a trades business that uses it for his CRM, but he's completely overwhelmed by it. There's simpler CRMs out there, but Go High Level just is a very sophisticated platform that covers everything. So the reason why people generally like it is because they can uh, they can cancel their other subscriptions to other softwares and platforms that they're using for, let's say, content scheduling or invoicing or automations or email, reaching out. All these things are built in within high level. And yes, there are things that maybe do some of these aspects better, but it's all built in. It's all really good, really sophisticated. They're constantly developing and getting better. So I think that is one of the biggest draws to it is you can just simplify your system and then you can, if everybody's using it, everybody's on the same page within Go High Level because all the data is right there. So you're not having to go between different, platforms.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And just the way I look at AI is it's like a business tool, right? It's like your cell phone, it's like your laptop. It's just another tool that you can help deliver great customer service as a business owner. And yeah, so let's think about a business owner that has heard a little bit about AI. Maybe they're a little bit worried, a little bit apprehensive, a little bit scared, maybe like some of the crazy stories that you hear about, like kind of robots taking over the world. But while we're not quite there yet, what would be a good way for a business owner to begin to at least find out how AI can help augment their business?
Sure. Yeah. So, in my opinion, I think it's easier to start with automations, and many business owners may not even give themselves credit and say to themselves, I am already using automations, but they probably are if they have a calendar system that sends a follow up text or, technology in itself is kind of automation because you're automating some process, you're automating pen and paper to digital. So it's saving them time, it's giving them leverage. So, pat yourself on the back. You're probably already using it in some sense. But AI and automation, as you know, Dennis, and probably a lot of your listeners know, but I only recently learned are completely different things. They work together. They're often included on platforms together, but they're different. So I would say start with automation because this will free up some of your time in your processes. AI is wonderful for content creation, however, and writing. So if you need help writing content, you can go to a website called, I just found it, it's called Buffer, and you can schedule your content ahead of time. You can also use AI. AI is usually built within these systems these days anyway, so you don't even have to go between ChatGPT or whatever you know AI model you're using. You can you can just go to these websites, these businesses that are actually just offering it for free or for a low cost, whatever. So anyway, all that to say, I think AI is wonderful for content creation and it can be great for more complex follow up, but I would just start with automated follow up just for simple conversations. AI can take over the more complex stuff though, as you get more deep in the weeds there.
Yeah, I've seen business owners go. Some are writing some emails with things like tools like ChatGPT or maybe Claude 3.7, which I think is a really good one that's out there now. And they're saving a lot of time and actually getting some emails out where there are times when business just gets so busy and so overwhelming, they're not going to carve out the time to write out emails for 2 or 3 hours in a week in order to get high quality content out there. But these tools can definitely help them with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, the writing with AI is really good. I think that's one of the strengths of using the AI.
Yeah. And I had a conversation with an HVAC owner. He has a full system. I don't know which system he's using, but it just sounded amazing in that the phone call would come in out of hours. His office hours, I think, are 8 till 4, but out of hours, the phone call was completely automated, and people could just talk to the voice on the phone. Not quite calling them a person yet, but I'm sure we'll kind of find the right terminology once we get there. But actually tell them exactly what they were looking for as far as what help they needed with their system, and they could book an appointment there and then on the phone, out of hours, with no human involvement, and then the ticket would get sent out to the engineer, telling them when they needed to be at the house. So it went from the whole system went from marketing through the sales process through virtually to the delivery process until the engineer was ready to go. That took away things that would have taken the business owner hours to work out, to see what the schedule is, to see who's available, to see that. And I think, that sort of speed really is the sweet spot of AI augmentation and automation.
Oh, yes, for sure. And just the fact that like most people are not yet using AI agents to answer their inbound calls just kind of sets them apart even more because you're kind of closing the gap on everything. So like, yeah, you have your automated text or you have your AI chatbot to be able to text people back who want to text, but like to be able to answer the phone and talk to them, I feel like this is kind of, we've talked about that before, like the wild, wild west in terms of like, how comfortable will people be with talking to somebody that they know is AI on the phone? How comfortable will they be? Because this is probably the closest, I think, for a customer to experience of an AI mimicking something human. So in every other thing, like a chatbot or something, I think people are a little more comfortable. Customers are a little more comfortable with that. But I talk to a lot of business owners who, voice AI or somebody AI answering their calls and scheduling and booking for them. That's something that obviously would free them up so much, but I think they get nervous about just the world being ready for that.
Yeah, you hear all things, sorts of crazy things about deep fakes, and yeah, and there was one. I think we spoke about this before. There's a company called 11 Labs that they can mimic your own voice, or they can have like an actor do your voice for you. And they had actually a real voice actor, and she came on there and delivered the speech perfectly and delivered the sales process perfectly. And people thought that she was AI because she was so good. And the ones that they were actually using as AI that were kind of mimicking people's voices had pauses and stutters and ums and ahs, the way people naturally think. And I said, oh yeah, I much prefer that because it's so natural. So I think that's going to be a very interesting way of moving forwards. And it's like anything else. I think the adoption is going to be kind of cautious, slowly, maybe a little fast, and then all of a sudden it's just going to become the new normal.
Yeah, and I remember last time we had talked about the internet and what was it? Were we talking about how you had seen how the adoption of um there was something about the internet at that time that made it that you realized that this now is going to be another version of that where it might take a little
Yeah.
time, but it's going to blow up.
Yeah, it was a couple of things. The first time I'd ever seen the internet was on my computer in college, and I liked the band Oasis, and I went to their website, and I think it's called oasisi.net, and I got on there and typed it in and pressed a button, and the song started playing, and I'm like, this is crazy. And then a very, very fuzzy video came up as well, and I'm yeah, I'm just not used to this. I know this is a long time ago, Blake, but I was just kind of looking around. Where's this music coming from? And I couldn't get my head around the fact that it was actually coming through the computer, through these zeros and ones, these bits. And I thought, the world is, if this keeps going and getting better and better, the world's going to change. And then the next time I remember, I think I was watching Jeff Bezos on TV talking about this Amazon company that he started. And I've always been into reading books, and I thought this was fascinating. And he was talking about an online book website that he was starting called Amazon. And I thought, well, that's all very well, but how do you pay for it? And then he said, oh, people are going to put their credit cards in. I remember thinking, that will never happen. People are comfortable giving their credit cards in person. They're pretty comfortable doing it over the phone. But as far as getting on a computer, typing in their credit card and just sending it out to a complete stranger, that will never happen. Well, of course, I was proved completely wrong. Within 18 months, it became reasonably commonplace, and Amazon didn't just carry on becoming the world's biggest book marketplace, became the world's biggest store. And that's 25, 26 years ago now. I think we're seeing a similar thing with the adoption of AI, and similar thing with all of the various agents that they're strange now, and for a lot of people they don't have much interaction with them, but I think it's going to become pretty commonplace and pretty soon as well.
Yeah, and you touched on that we had talked about how people are afraid of getting lost and their jobs being taken over by AI, but I think sometimes people are afraid too of using it and taking a risk and, falling short or like failing because they're like, I don't know, is this going to actually, become something that works, that actually customers see, it makes their experience better? Or is it going to make it worse? Is it going to, is it going to make me lose money, or is it going to make me gain money? And like, I think, Amazon's such a good example of that, because when he started with the internet and stuff, there were so many people, just, like you were saying, that were like, this isn't going to work, but he had a vision, and he saw the potential in the internet. And so he jumped in at the right time. And I think that, 2025, this is a time when, small, medium, large size businesses can jump in, and it's a good time to jump in. And um it's not as hard as you think. There's a lot of technology is meant to make things easier. It's not meant to make things harder. And there are a lot of websites and programs and tools, essentially, that aim to make it as easy as possible for you. No coding required.
Yeah, to me, that's the beauty of it. If you really spend some time digging in, learning about some of the concepts, some of the tools, and maybe working with an expert such as yourself, I think you could really go a long way in a very short space of time, and definitely get a little bit of a competitive advantage to start, and probably a huge advantage over time, um, should you
Yeah, and
adopt
I want to say
early.
too, I'm not even like, I don't call myself an expert. And like, that is like something that I would say should encourage people, because I just started this. Like, I started Facebook ads 2 years ago, and I've been able to, you know, I think so far I've had great success. And so I started learning about AI and automation like a year ago. And yeah, I've dedicated a lot of time to it, but you can totally do it. It doesn't need to take years and years and years to learn. Like, that's what I mean. It's not as hard as you think.
Yeah, I love that. And the other thing you touched on, which I love, is the customer service aspect of it, because there are certain things that can definitely enhance the customer experience as far as convenience, as far as time. But I think there always is going to be that need for some sort of personal touch. And so we're not going to replace people, but people who can use AI and augment AI into their day-to-day roles, I think, are going to be the people that are able to deliver that amazing customer experience.
For sure. Yes. Yeah. And, I just talked to a business owner yesterday who said that he's really with it. He wants to have everything. He doesn't want to have any humans doing anything in his business anymore. He does a wraps business, like vehicle wraps and stuff. And he's done really well. Like, he's made really good choices in his business. But I just love that he's comfortable with the uncomfortable, with the unknown, and he wants to move forward with automation and AI. And he's really in the nitty gritty of his business. He's going to be in there seeing, if everything's working right. We talked about this before, there's a training period, there's an iterative period. It's iterative. When you're making automations, there's going to be bugs sometimes. When you're creating an AI that's going to work on your behalf for a certain purpose, specific purpose, to have a conversation with somebody, if you're using like an AI bot or whatever, like a chat bot or voice on the phone, there's going to be problems with it. And especially if you're somebody who really cares about the quality of the interactions between your customers and your business, you're going to maybe not be happy with 100% of those interactions and 100% of those automations. So there is a process of going back and forth and fixing things, tweaking things and stuff. But the whole purpose is a long-term, it's an investment, because over the next few months, once you get it dialed in, you're going to be ahead of so many people. Just the fact that it's a little bit hard at the beginning to get everything dialed in like perfectly. That means that all your competitors too are also having to get over that hump. So like, just the fact that you put in that time to perfect it for your business, customize it for your business, that will be an investment for years for you, and like free up your time to focus on things that you actually need to be in.
Yeah, great point. It's about training. It's like bringing on a new employee and expecting them to just run with it. Here's the manual. Here's what we do. Go do it. No, you bring on a new employee. You want to make sure that you're bringing on the right one. They have the right attitude. But then there's that intense training period, whether it's a month, 3 months, 6 months, even 12 months for some businesses to make sure that they know exactly what they're doing and they're delivering that excellent customer service. And I think it's the same with any sort of automation that you put in. You want to make sure that you're training, you're both learning on the job. The AI is learning, you're learning. It's an iterative experience, and ultimately, it's going to get you to where you want to go much quicker.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great point. It's like a new employee. I love that.
Yeah, or a whole bunch of employees, right? In a
Yeah,
case
for
of
sure.
like, yeah, the rep business. That sounds like a fascinating, business to be in
I
as far as
know.
automating.
Yes, yes. And they have a lot of like machinery they use too. So, yeah, that is fascinating to automate. And the fact that it's a physical business, but they've been able to make it national by, strategic partnerships with other, people across the country that can install the wraps. There's a lot of strategy that goes into business, and that's something AI can help you with too. But I wanted to say about automations and AI, when like the hurdle that you have to get over with training it, just because you don't have success with automations, or it makes your life a little more stressful at first because of the unknown, and because, oh god, like what if this makes me lose money because it's not working perfectly, it's not actually replacing you in a better version of you yet. Don't let that make you stop. You have to work through that. You have to push past that. It could be that it needs to be trained better. Like the AI needs better training and more detail of your business. It could be that you need to do it a different way. Like there's different ways to implement it. Even within my software called Go High Level, there's like I was trying to do an AI for a business. I was trying to do an AI bot, like a chat bot for a business over text that would have conversations with customers who had submitted a form on their website. And we were having trouble getting it to work when I had installed like the it's more of a what am I trying to say? More of a large scale bot with like more training and stuff. I was having trouble with that. So what I did instead is, in the workflow, there was another way around it where we could install little teeny AIs that were just for a little specific task. And, then they have some if then conditions and stuff. It can be tedious sometimes, but it doesn't have to be. But what I'm just saying is, like, think of the long term. Think of what this is essential for the future. Like, you're gonna have to get on this boat, so you're gonna have to go through. Uh, you're gonna have to learn this eventually. You might as well now, because you can scoop up customers before your competitors get on this train.
Yeah, yeah. I think any business is going to, you're absolutely right. Any business is going to need to. I always say the only businesses that probably don't need to be thinking about AI and adopting AI are businesses that don't use electricity. It's going to
Mm,
become that ubiquitous. So if your business doesn't use electricity, if you don't use a cell phone, you don't use lights, yeah, you no need for AI. But if you use lights, you use heating, you use cell phones, cars, you're already using AI. You just don't know you're using it. So why not start to use it more intentionally in delivering that excellent customer service?
for sure. Yeah. And I would say maybe in the future some businesses will brand themselves on being, oh, we're a completely human run business and stuff. But and like maybe some people will value that, being like, oh wow, they're not on the AI automation train. I really like this is like old school. But I feel like those customers are probably going to question, are things slipping through the cracks? Because it's not just for customer interaction that AI and automations help. It's for the back end too. It's making sure nothing slips through the cracks. So, there's really a professionalism about it you that customers experience. And I feel like people don't realize that yet, is that AI and automation, it's just all the back end processes, because things slip through the cracks when you have a human you're dealing with, you're trying to get a hold of them and everything with a business. You're on hold, you're waiting to talk to somebody, things like that. So I think customers are going to realize at some point it's worth it, for them, makes their lives easier, even if, the human interaction piece is something that people value a lot. I think it's going to start to become more worth it for them.
Yeah, that blended approach, I think, is the way to go. I don't think you're ever going to take away from two humans looking at each other face to face or over Zoom, or whether we're having doing podcasts via hologram in 10 years from now. Who knows what the future brings? But yeah, I was working with um, a, a salon studio, and they wanted to come up with 12 months of really exciting and engaging content for their emails. But that's, one a week. It was 52. And then we came up with theme months. And so we sat there for a couple of minutes with a pen and a paper. And yeah, February can be Valentine's Day, March, yeah, heading to. And then we said, let's ask ChatGPT. And within 20 seconds, we had more than enough great information. We didn't literally run with the whole thing, but it sparked more and more ideas, and we were able to come up with 52 pieces of content probably in less than 5 minutes.
Crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, it's amazing how much time you can save with it. It's incredible. Yeah, I would say ChatGPT is like such a great place to start with, content generation and stuff. And I get happy when I see local business owners using it. I'm like, yay, you're using AI. I love it.
Yeah, it's great. I worked with a landscaper a couple of years ago. He was a pretty early adopter to ChatGPT, and we're always trying to come up with just a very basic business plan as to where his business was going. And each week I'd say, how far have we got? And he said, well, I kind of got the intro written, and then it's like, I've got half a page. I got busy this week. Oh, one of my staff called in sick. Oh, we took on this big job. So after 6 weeks, we're really getting nowhere. And then he downloaded ChatGPT, put it in there,
Mm.
and came up with a 7-page business plan. It wasn't perfect, but it was something for him to then work on, modify it, and adjust. And now he had, and this is in 2020, this is probably the late summer 2023, when ChatGPT first came out. Now he had a plan and a roadmap, and began thinking about what the investments he needed to make strategically for his business, how many staff he would need, what sort of budget he would need to spend on his marketing. It was one of the most eye-opening moments in business I've ever had. When I saw that, I went, wow, this is it. This is the future.
Oh yeah, and like how much easier and better it is than you thought when you first logged in to ChatGPT and made an account or whatever. You're like, oh, how do I talk to it? I hear business owners say that, like, how do I AI prompt engineering, that sounds so intimidating. Like prompt engineering, oh my God, like do I need to know how to code to prompt it? Like, no, literally just talk like you're talking to a person or an employee, and you need them to do something for you. I need help with this. If they get something wrong, give them a little more context, give them a little more instructions, detail. Like it's really pretty natural and intuitive, which I feel like people don't understand technology, has gotten to. It's pretty amazing. So like once you start it though, you're like, oh my God, I can use this for everything. And so I feel like there's like a phase where you just start like using ChatGPT like all the time because you're realizing like it's how amazing it is. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love giving it feedback the way I would give a human feedback.
Yeah.
I say, thanks very much. That's just not good enough. And they say, oh, I'll try my best to make this one better. But I
Yeah.
love saying please and thank you. And I've heard that that's a really good way of training, not to look at it as a computer that you just issue instructions to, but something where you engage in a much more human way in order to kind of work together to get the results that you want.
For sure. Yes, it makes a huge difference. I've experienced too. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you see AI going in the future, Blake, as far as business use and yeah, you mentioned this, it's kind of the Wild West at the moment, but we're heading into unknown territory, but there are
Mhm.
some markers and some signals and already some patterns there that we can begin to see as trends, that business owners can use.
Yeah, I think that you've mentioned this before. We're heading toward a lot of progress and a lot of change where there's going to be huge gaps in businesses that are implementing it effectively and ones that aren't trying at all. So like I was saying earlier, it takes a bit to implement it effectively. There's a process and stuff. I mean, and there's going to be AI and automation agencies that come out in the future where they can just set this all up for you. They've done it in your industry. They have the experience. They can just plug you in. So it's going to get easier and easier. There's probably going to be websites for your industry where you can just go there and you just put in your information. They build your whole system for you, like in every aspect of your business, literally. So your whole business is now operated by AI and automation. Besides the things that you can't pay for like an actual physical robot yet, maybe to go do it because we're still working on that. But yeah, I think there's going to be a big gap in businesses that are not trying at all and businesses that are using it. And I think I mean, I've just seen like how much it can take care of when done effectively. And that effectiveness is going to, become easier and easier to achieve, like I was saying. So, yeah, I mean, I think I'm extremely excited to see what happens. Yeah, and more businesses implementing the automation side too. Um, it's it's crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah, to me, it's a kind of like anything in business, it's a skill set and a mindset, but the mindset's always got to come first. What's your mindset? Are you gonna be scared? Are you gonna try AI? A lot of people say, I tried it and it didn't work for me. I hear that a lot when it comes to marketing. I tried Facebook ads, they didn't work. Well, how long did you try them for? 3 days and they didn't. I'm like, that's not really a long-term plan, a long-term strategy. Similar with AI, what is your mindset? Is your mindset truly to adopt this thing that's coming down? It's inevitable. Are you going to use it as something that's going to strategically grow your business, make your life ultimately easier? Maybe there's a little to a lot of short-term pain, learning, uh, failure, things going wrong, things not working out. But ultimately, it's going to get there. And then once you get that mindset piece in place, then it's really just a case of skill set, and it's learning. What can you do? Where can you learn from? Who can you talk to? Who can you bring in? Into your organization. I mean, I'm 54 years old, and I'm going to say that I'm not the cutting edge of technology right now. I try to do what I can with
Me neither.
AI. Yeah, I try to do what I can with any
Yeah,
sort of AI. But there are going to be people that are in college now, coming out of college, and this is going to
I
be
know.
almost all that they know,
I
and
know.
they're
I
going to be
know.
so useful to any business.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And just kind of changing your mindset, like you're saying, like it's easy to look at people. Like I have a cousin that's that age, is like 19, 20 in college and knows so much more than I do, I feel like, about all this. It's just like, I'm like, wow, man. So it's easy to feel like, oh, those people that are a younger generation from me, like they're more suited for this and stuff. But you have to change your mind about that because it's not true. Um, you know, people that are not in that generation have business wisdom and experience, and they have more career years to bring to bear upon how they use AI and automation. I mean, there's things that AI and automation can't teach you, essentially, and that's life experience. So, like, that's another mindset thing. It's something we all have to work on as we move forward.
Yeah, and it's going to highlight the need for diversity within any organization, having people with experience and people with knowledge, and then bringing those together to make the organization thrive and move forwards.
For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah. As we wrap up, like yeah, I always talk about that, that those first few steps. But what would you say could be three practical things that anybody listening to the podcast at the moment who has made that shift from thinking, oh, you know what, this isn't as difficult as I thought it was. What three practical things could somebody do just to take that next step into the AI world?
Are they business owners?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So for a business owner, if you are scheduling anything, like go ahead and get a Calendly or use Google Calendar, whatever. Within Calendly or Google Calendar, there's like automated follow-up that you can just like plug and play with. So that's one thing. That's two things in one that you can have automated, and that is your bookings on your calendar. You can you can sync that with your Google Calendar, whatever. Um, it's not that hard. But yeah, calendar, using Calendly or Google Calendar. The second thing would be using ChatGPT for content creation and writing. And I would say the third thing would be I'm between a few things. The easiest things. Hmm. I would say get a CRM or a project management system that works for your industry, because that way you can automate like several things like in one. So yeah, so what was my first one? It was Calendly,
Calendar.
calendar.
Yep.
And then using ChatGPT for content creation and email writing. Third one would be looking at getting a CRM because that's automation as well.
I love that. That seems like, anyone from that your cousin coming out of college to, the lawyer that's in their mid to late 60s who's, this is all completely new. They've seen so many technological changes and shifts. I'm sure anyone with this a little bit of help and the willingness can begin to implement those things.
For sure. Yes, absolutely they can. Yes, for sure. I mean, if I can, anybody can. Yeah. I was not a techie person before this. I was a teacher. Come on. Yeah.
Yeah, me as well. Yeah, I had a teaching background, and
Oh,
looking
cool.
back, I remember. I keep going back to these stories, but I remember one of my students. She was in the UK in a town called Leicester. Her name was Crystal, and it was when cell phones first started coming about. We called them mobile phones in England. And I remember thinking to myself, I will never need one. I will never want one. I like my peace and quiet. And she had two cell phones. And I'm like, what do you need two for? And she was like, well, one that my mum knows about and one that my mum doesn't know about. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And
Wow.
yeah, it's yeah, it's kind of where, really where we're at. It's just like this adoption and
Yeah, and I
total
would say
mindset.
like educators too are, I think they're really good adopters of tech, I think in a lot of ways, because educators have so many different tasks they need to be completing, like, you know, from grading to lesson planning to, uh, lesson giving, like giving the lesson. Like I've seen when I was in education, like educators adopting as much as they could, because they just had to. So I think like writing lesson plans and writing curriculum for teachers, I think that's like a huge window of opportunity with AI is like, just being able to plug in what you have and being like, all right, I need you to create like lesson plans for the next, next quarter or whatever. But like also like games, like gamifying things for students. I think like automation and AI and like just giving students a website to go to where they can like go through and be personalized as well. That's not even something we touched on is like the personalization aspect of AI is it being able to know every single one of your students. Sometimes it's hard to even remember your students' names, even though you love them. But when you have 150 students or whatever, it's like AI can really help teachers. Like that's something that like I'm realizing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so many use case applications, both for businesses, yeah, employees, parents, teachers, students. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. Cool.
Yeah.
Blake, this has been an absolute pleasure. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and find out more about what it is that you do, what would be the best place for them to go?
Yeah, sure. So this sounds kind of weird, but they can either just go to my Facebook. I'm Blake Waldrip on Facebook. Just send me a message, or they can, to find out more about my business, they can go to boomreviews.co. That is my automations and Google review management business that I just started. I also have an older business called digitalintuitionmarketing.com. But yeah, you can do those things. Just reach out to me. I'm super available. So thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful.
This has been so fun.
It's a pleasure, yeah, and thanks so much. I think this is going to be so useful for a business owner that to get their mind into, all right, okay, I can use AI because they're going to need to. It's not a case of, um, really making a choice, shall I or shall I not? Let's face it, businesses are going to have to automate and use AI to some extent.
Yeah, and they can go slow, step by step. So don't feel like you have to get it all figured out in one day. It's like it's a mindset thing, like you were saying.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Blake. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
You too.